Back in its heyday, the Popeyes chicken sandwich had the nation in such a chokehold that it led to mass hysteria, violence, and in at least one case, death. How'd this happen? How did the release of a mediocre fast food sandwich cause this much disruption? It's important we journey back to the beginning to understand how this all was possible. Even though the sandwich was released in 2019, Popeyes began working on the sandwich as far back as 2016. It had been well known that if you want a chicken sandwich from a fast food spot, Chick-fil-A is the place to go. However, due to their ideological beliefs, some people have moral hangups when it comes to dining there. Popeye saw this obvious weak point and decided to add a new contender in the chicken sandwich game. On August 12, 2019, the sandwich was released to moderate praise. It should and would have remained this way. However, its competitors could not handle seeing someone else receive praise. On August 19th, the official Chick-fil-A Twitter account tweeted out, "Bun plus pickle plus chicken equals all the love for the original." This was their attempt to throw shade and to make it seem as though they were unbothered by the release of a competitor's chicken sandwich. However, one of the only truths on the internet is that if you proclaim about how much you're unbothered, it shows how much you truly are bothered. This also ended up being a mistake that was worth millions of dollars, as the official Popeyes Twitter account responded in a tweet asking, "You good?" Two corporate entities going back and forth on social media. This was something that was unseen or unheard of up to this point, and everyone, including other corporate entities, wanted to chime in and get their 2 cents off. And then, just like that, everyone had the same thought popping into their heads. I have to try this chicken sandwich. It didn't matter if it was good or not at this point. You had to have it just so you could be a part of the Popeyes versus Chick-fil-A war. People began to flock to Popeyes in droves to get their hands on the sandwich. Thanks to the added interest in the sandwich on social media, you had news outlets reporting on it and celebrities promoting to their millions of followers the chicken sandwich because they also wanted to be a part of the conversation. Now, if you're Chick-fil-A, this is your worst nightmare. All because you wanted to look cool and shade Popeyes with your tweet, you accidentally generated millions of dollars worth of advertising for them and basically hand-delivered them a ton of customers. Way more customers than even Popeyes were expecting, as you began to see shortages. At first, it started with longer lines that stretched out the door due to the massive wait times for the sandwich. It then turned into people traveling from store to store due to the sandwich no longer being available at certain restaurants. One customer was so annoyed by this that he decided to take matters into his own hands and sue. On August 28th, a Chattanooga resident by the name of Craig Barr decided to file a lawsuit against Popeyes for what he claimed to be false advertising. In an interview with the Times Free Press, he stated, "I can't get happy. I have the sandwich on my mind. I can't think straight," showing his unhealthy obsession with Popeye's newly released product. This desire to have a sandwich was so strong that it even led to him purchasing one off of Craigslist for an upcharge of $25. As if paying $25 for a $5 sandwich wasn't enough, he also ended up cracking the rim of his car while heading to one of the various locations in his pursuit of the sandwiches. This turned out to be his final straw, and shortly afterwards, he filed said lawsuit, which was scheduled to go to trial on January 8th the following year. Now, it doesn't matter if he won or not. What matters is this state of mind he was in. So many others felt exactly like him, desperate for the sandwich, rushing from store to store in order to find one to try. This is why you had individuals selling pre-owned sandwiches to people desperate enough for just one bite. But this would be far from the end of the sandwich madness. On September 3rd, at a Southeast Houston location, a group of angry customers attempted to break into a restaurant because they didn't believe the employees when they told them they were all out of chicken sandwiches. These people were so desperate to have one that one member of the group threatened the employees by flashing a gun. Thankfully, no one was hurt during this ordeal, but to add insult to injury, an eyewitness said they saw a baby with them. So not only were these people willing to risk jail time all over a chicken sandwich, they were also willing to put a child in danger for their selfish desires. Seeing a rise in incidents like this, Popeyes decided to put out a statement on their Twitter account, announcing that the sandwich was officially sold out, but would be returning in the near future, which it did a few months later in November. However, this didn't stop the sandwich madness. It almost seemed as though people were more eager to cause chaos as fights seemed to break out left and right upon its re-release. You had people being body slammed because they called someone a slur, customers fighting while waiting at the drive-thru line, and people in such a rush to get the sandwich they'd even damage their own vehicles. Thankfully, these incidents would happen at a location once and it'd be over with. However, that wasn't the case for this unlucky Popeyes located in Edgewood, Maryland, that had 3 fights across 3 days. It began on Sunday, November 3rd, when police were called due to a fight between a customer and an employee that started because the customer demanded a refund. The police then were called 2 hours later that same day because it looked like some employees were going at it behind the counter. Officers then had to return to the exact same Popeyes just 2 days later because it seemed like the employees just couldn't keep their hands to themselves. Thankfully, they weren't called there again, but that didn't stop another fight from breaking out the same day at a different location. All the way down in Ellington, Florida, 2 men can be seen getting into a fight while waiting in line at a drive-thru. Now, it's not known what exactly started the fight, but it's safe to assume the sandwich had something to do with it. All across the country, people were getting in the scraps. And how does Popeyes respond? They hire on 400 more employees to try and help with the extra traffic in stores, but even this didn't seem to work, like in the case of this overstaffed Popeyes located in Milwaukee. On November 13th, around 9:30 p.m., a massive fight broke out between 7 of the employees there. The employees were initially involved in a shouting match, but once one employee hopped over the counter to approach another one, the fight broke out. Thankfully, it was able to calm down moments later, but that didn't stop all of these employees from getting fired, including the supervisor in charge that night. Though they wouldn't be the only ones who lost their jobs, as one Texas employee would soon be let go for bringing in his 8-year-old child to help cook in the kitchen. On November 15th, customers recorded a child working in the kitchen at a Popeyes located in Colony, Texas. The child was likely there to help with the surplus customers coming into the restaurant, as one eyewitness stated they were very short-staffed. While I was there was only one person working the front counter and 4 employees in the kitchen. After the video was posted to social media, it got picked up by large news outlets, and Popeyes quickly fired the employee and put out a statement. "We took swift action to explore this claim with the franchise. The restaurant owner has terminated the employee who brought their child, a minor, into the kitchen and will fully cooperate with any additional investigations and compliance with state and federal laws. The safety of our guests and team is always a priority for us, and we take any actions that are outside of our brand and operational standards very seriously." Them saying they take standards very seriously seems almost laughable when you consider what happened to Jerry Merdinger, a 23-year-old New York resident who got a little bit more than what he asked for with his sandwich. On November 4th, Jeremy entered his local Popeyes and purchased 2 sandwiches for himself, one spicy and one regular. After returning home, Jeremy sat down in order to enjoy his sandwiches. He started off with the spicy and everything appeared to be business as usual, but it wasn't until he bit down into his regular sandwich that he noticed it came with an extra topping. A few bites in, and suddenly he couldn't finish his sandwich. He felt himself choking. That's when he spit his food out and realized that there was an unfinished blunt on his sandwich right between the pickles. Originally, poor Jeremy would have been content with an apology and a refund, but after reaching out to Popeyes via email, they left him on red. According to Jeremy, they were basically saying it happened outside of the restaurant and there is nothing they can do. They can at least admit they made a mistake. I would like for them to own up to it. I think it's ridiculous and not professional. After not getting the response that he and anyone else in his shoes would have wanted, he decided to put them on blast, tweeting out, "Do all your chicken sandwiches come with a joint in them? Found this in my sandwich the other day in NYC. Just wanted to make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else." Unfortunately for Jeremy, this wouldn't be the only Popeyes to have poor sanitation around their sandwiches. On November 7th, all the way over in Fairfax, Virginia, a customer tweeted out, "Somebody caught a Popeyes employee making sandwiches over the trash can." In the photos, you can clearly see a tray of sandwiches placed on a trash can being prepared to serve to customers. The story behind it is allegedly the Popeyes got slammed with a 100 chicken sandwich order and they were just trying to make space to be able to prep all the sandwiches. In the defense of Popeyes, you can clearly see that the tray is on top of the trash receptacle. However, anything that is adjacent to refuse is refuse. After the photos went viral, the owner of the location went out and purchased a brand new table to make sure they would have more working space and so that they wouldn't get caught up in an incident like this again. It didn't matter if it was staff or customers, there was something about this sandwich that just brought out the worst of people. If you were at a location around this time, you would have likely either seen or been a part of one of these incidents. Although in a majority of these cases, it ended up with someone just being able to tell a crazy story at a later date, one customer didn't have such a positive outcome. On November 4th, 2019, outside of a Maryland Popeyes location, a young man was stabbed to death over the chicken sandwich. According to security footage, 28-year-old Kevin Davis entered the Popeyes to try out the sandwich for himself. Upon entering the store, he saw a long line of customers and decided to cut in line so he could get his sandwich sooner. This is when he was approached by 30-year-old Rico McLean, who happened to be one of the patrons that Davis cut in front of. This led to a verbal altercation between the two, which escalated and caused the 2 young men to exit the restaurant. Upon exiting, the men began to get physical, and McLean ended up stabbing Davis and fleeing the scene immediately. Police officers arrived to the scene and attempted to save the young man, rushing him to the hospital. However, about 40 minutes after the incident occurred, the young man succumbed to his wounds and passed away. This moment in time will forever be remembered, and I think there's a lesson to be learned here. People weren't so desperate for a mediocre chicken sandwich. People were really desperate to be involved, to be a part of a conversation larger than themselves, to be able to go to work the next day and say, "Hey, I tried that new sandwich and I want you to hear my opinion about it." This is an example of how much people want to be included in things and the lengths that they're willing to go in order to do so. They're willing to risk their freedom, bodily harm, even their own life just to say, "I fit in." In this world we live in, it's only a matter of time before another thing happens that has everyone and their grandma rushing to be a part of it. I just hope we learn from the past and don't end up losing any lives due to it.